First of all, how would you summarise this event?
Well, they're all very exciting bare knuckle events. I think it's about my 20th now. It's excoriatingly fast action, and I think one fight went to decision tonight, and it was controversial. But the rest of it is just pure action. There's no hiding place in the Trigon. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. It's full-on action. And as you know, I've been involved in boxing for 35 years. When you go back to boxing, it feels quite slow compared to this. The night goes really fast. It's brutal. There's cuts and bruises and blood. I get it all over me in the interviews. I can understand why. I think we're capturing the zeitgeist with this sport. This is a sport that is going viral. Millions of viewers on TikTok tonight again for the prelims. I think it's Generation Alpha stuff, this. It's going to take over, I think, and be really exciting. 20 years ago I worked with the UFC, and I love boxing, and I'll always be involved in boxing, but 20 years ago the UFC was like this, and it really reminds me of how it's going to grow.
And obviously it's interesting that you mentioned all of that, really, because tonight you've obviously got the Anthony Joshua fight. So to have a fight, a BKB event on the same night as Anthony Joshua as well, how do you think it fared, having, an event like this alongside a big event out in Saudi? And do you think that's going to perhaps try and attract people from the boxing world to perhaps get involved in BKB?
I think people from the boxing world and the MMA world will get involved in all combat sports, because most fights start on the feet. There's a clinch allowed in this, which is a bit of kind of MMA in a way, so it brings the MMA fighters. But I just think for pure speed and action, once you can get over the perception shifts of bare knuckles and cuts and blood, because there is a lot of that, I think the sport becomes as veritable and as viable as any of the other sports that are flying. You mentioned Anthony Joshua tonight, Tyson Fury last night. We were sandwiched between the two. Josh Kelly will be fighting shortly, I think, if he hasn't fought already. Hamza Shiraz are all fighting. So there's a lot of big names fighting tonight. So we're competing with a lot of resources out there in the combat sports world. We cannot claim to be beating boxing, but I think when you see the Vargas brothers, and you've all interviewed Fernando Vargas Sr. this week. I covered a part of his career. He's an absolute legend. As he says, he's got the royal nutsack that keeps giving birth to these great boxer sons, or the Vargas dynasty is the other word for it, of course. But the boxers are coming to it. Lee Selby loves that. We're trying to persuade Amir Khan to have a fight in bare knuckle with Kell Brook. I think a lot of boxers will come to bare knuckle, maybe for bucket list, but we're seeing young guys in their prime coming out of the boxing ecosystem and into bare knuckle to see if they're right in it. It's a different sport, different tensile strength, different way of receiving punches. You see people suddenly collapse in this because they can't take it. I think it will grow, and I think it will take some of the boxing audience who want boxing on speed dial. It's a bit like if you love Test cricket and you're a boxing purist and you love Test cricket, you'll probably enjoy bare knuckle if you enjoy T20. If that's the right analogy, if you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Who would you like to see in the ring?
I'd love to see Amir against Kell Brook, because I really don't like it. So every time I mention it to Amir Khan that we're going to sign Kell Brook, he goes, "Oh, really? Okay." You see those pearly white teeth of his. I'd love to see Derek Chisora and Dillian White have a bare knuckle fight. Can you imagine? There's a lot of. I'd like to have seen Gennady Golovkin and Canelo in a bare knuckle fight. I'd like to see Andre Ward in a bare knuckle fight. Loads of people. But I think boxers who are world champions at the moment and are earning huge amounts of money, like your Ryan Garcias, like your Conor Benns. When we spoke to Conor Benn for many months about him being an ambassador for bare knuckle, he's right up BKB street. The tattoos, the cool, the controversy, all those things. I think a lot of people will come to it, but if they're very high earning in boxing or MMA right now, I don't think they'll come over yet.
You've said that you've been around 20 BKB events.
Yeah, about 20, yeah.
Out of all of them, which one has been your most memorable and why?
This one. because you're only as good as your last event, and I can't remember the other ones really.
What made this one so special?
I think we were in a flow after LA. We were down in LA Live in the Novo Theatre, right in the heart of downtown LA, and it's it's one of the entertainment capitals of the world. This is a really iconic theatre as well, where lots of musicians have played, and we've been here a few times. Even though it wasn't jam-packed tonight, it was one of the best atmospheres. It was thrilling from first to last for me, and I go on how good the fights were. And you know, in a week's time, I probably won't even be able to remember this event. For me right now, this is the best one.
You've covered so many different sports in the past, right? And different promotions. But what do you think
You're my stalker.
Am I?
I didn't even know you knew that.
So, what do you think has been the most special moment in your career?
Okay.
Highlight
Wow.
ones.
Okay. Wow.
Or one of them?
So many. I mean, there's so many. There's the big stadiums with Fury and Joshua. All those big stadium fights. The fights in America. The trilogy with Wilder and Fury. Joshua and Klitschko. Calzaghe's career. Hatton's career. Nassim Hamed's career. Amir Khan's career. Carl Froch's career. And then in UFC, John Jones's career, Anderson Silva's career, George St. Pierre's career. One of the best fights I've ever seen was John Jones and Alex Gustafsson won. The Bellator tournaments. I mean, I've been doing this for 36 years, so even the early fights in the York Hall back in the day in the early 90s, you know, when, bless his heart, Colin Hart would go on son, make it sing, sitting on the stairs, calling your copy into the paper on a telephone, dictating it. That's how old I am, you know. But but I am. I'm old in the sport, and I've seen enough combat sports to know that this is going to capture public attention at some point and be very, very big. Imagine these fights in a stadium packed with 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. It's just going to be off the charts.
And obviously I want to ask as well, in regards to your time covering combat sport over the last 20 plus years, what do you think has been the biggest shift that you have seen in combat sport, and what gives you that sense that perhaps that BKB is going to catch on?
The biggest shift is definitely the movement of the heavyweight division away from America to Europe over the last decade, really with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, and then beyond that, as we hold the crew up, the Saudi Arabians coming in 3 years ago. I worked very closely with Turki Al Sheikh at the beginning. I was one of his kind of advisors, if you like, in the media. The changes over the last 3 years have just been enormous, because money, timing and ego makes all the big fights happen, because the money shifts people's ego and makes the timing right. When you think there's probably £200 million going into Fury and Joshua, which is 6 or 7 years past its best sell-by date, you've got to thank Turki Al Sheikh for loving the sport of boxing and the Saudi Arabians for investing in it. It's the biggest paradigm shift in my time. But that movement away from America into Europe and the heavyweight division, because America doesn't really have heavyweights anymore. But when I began, it was Lennox going over to fight Tyson, and Holyfield and Riddick Bowe and those guys over there. Well, obviously he didn't fight Bowe, but he fought in the Olympics. But it was a movement to America